Hi guys, what I'm going to do right now is go over some basic tips on the Ibis paint so you can work on your digital still life. So let me walk you through a couple steps. Now some of you guys may have used this app probably more than I have, so this is very, very basic. So feel free, if you already know how to use these tools, your artwork's probably going to be a little bit more exciting. If you don't, just follow along to get started. So first step is you're going to hit the app, and if something pops up, if you've been working on something, you want to hit the back arrow over here in the lower right corner, back to my gallery. And this is where generally, I'll hit back again, all your artwork or things you've been working on will show up. So you're going to start a new artwork for this. Hit the plus button at the upper toolbar. It doesn't really matter to me what size you make it because it's all going to be done digitally here. So if you want it to be a square, just choose the 1x1. That's what I'll do. But again, it doesn't matter. Okay, and so first step is we're going to work on a background. So there's some fun ways to do this. Now you can use your paint bucket and drop colors of paint. You can drop patterns. It's really up to you. So I really like to use some patterns to make this a little funky for putting our photos on top. So I'm going to go to this upper right corner, this little landscape. And then it gives you all these really cool patterns and textures. So anime backgrounds, real backgrounds, all kinds of cool stuff. So I think what I'm going to do is like a wall or maybe a tablecloth. That's what I'm going to do for one, a tablecloth pattern. And let's go with that. Okay, so I've got this. It's covered my whole square. I don't necessarily want it to cover my whole square, but what I'm going to do is hit the check mark because I'm good with that. And then I'm going to transform, which means I'm going to move it around. So hit the transform, and now you can make it any size you want by just kind of using your fingers, slide in and out. So I'm going to keep it fairly big. I'm going to overlap my square, but I'm going to bring it down. This is going to be kind of like my table where I'm going to put my items. So then I'll hit OK. So now you can see it's taking the bottom part of my square up. Okay. The other thing you need to know about this is that we're working in layers. So really this Ibis paint is a precursor to working in Photoshop. So these little numbered boxes are your different layers. And I want you to think of it as you're layering things on top of one another. And it's easier if you always kind of refer to this and know what's on top of what. So right now we're working, this is the checkered part. For the background layer, I'll go back down to 1. I want to choose a color for this background. So I'll be on the first layer, click back off of that. I'm going to go to my bucket tool, and then I'm going to hit a color. I don't know, let's do like a minty green. And I should be able to hit a green, and it kind of cut through. As you can see, it goes underneath. So this is not the best pattern because there are separations in it, as you can see. So I think what I might do to get rid of that is draw a line with a brush. This works a lot better if you have styluses, which I don't. So I'm going to try to use my finger and just draw a line. I want to make sure I'm working in the right layer. All right. Again, not the best, but it'll do. Again, I'm not looking for the most extremely accurate artwork on this. I'm really kind of looking for you're getting used to exploring these tools for future use. So now I've kind of created this boundary line, so I should be able to go back into my layers, go into my background layer, go back to the bucket tool, choose my minty green color, and if I dump it now, that line helps to separate the top from the bottom. I got some crap on there. Okay, so this is a real basic way to start with your background. Maybe on your back wall, you want to make a gallery wall with some pictures. So what you can do is import some things back there. So if I go back to my layers, I'm going to go ahead and hit this camera, and then I can go back to all my photos. And if I have, let's see what I've got in here. I've got all kinds of stuff. Let's find, oh, that's a pretty sunset. So I'll put that in. And maybe I'll use that kind of like up in the corner here, overlap. So it's like part of the wall. I don't want to see the whole thing. If you want to see the whole thing, you can. But you have to keep in mind your other objects that are going to be on the table down here. I kind of want that to be off. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel on that. So those are my layers so far. So now what I'm gonna do is start dropping in my other objects, or you can draw some objects in as well. Let me see if I can show you that. Let's go back to layers. I'm gonna add another layer. And this layer needs to be above the table layer for me to work on. Okay. So with that, you can take a brush tool, choose your color, and then you could start drawing objects. So again, my finger is not the best tool for drawing. The stylus is a little better, but let's just say I want to put like I don't know, some kind of a coffee cup type of deal here. Oh, this is really ugly. Okay. So it might help if I zoomed in a little bit, probably. Again, this is not good. So for the sake of this, I would probably go back and fix it, but for just showing you, I'm gonna leave it alone. So what I'm gonna do now is I don't want it to be transparent. So again, I'm going to go ahead and change the color. I'm gonna use my bucket tool. I'm gonna pick maybe red. And if I drop red in those places, whoops. It should work. Now, if I've got into a problem here because it's gonna wanna turn all this other black red, I can just go back to my brush tool and use a brush and kind of fill in very carefully with that. I can go back to this. Maybe I want to put like a cappuccino in there, so I'm going to use brown, bucket tool, brown. And then I'm going to zoom out. So there's part of my cup. Now I might want to put a shadow down there since it's sitting on the ground, so I'll change my color again. I'm gonna go ahead and choose black, but I don't want it to be pure black. So what I'm gonna do is change the opacity. You see how it's changing up there? It's a little lighter gray. And I think, no, it's not working. Maybe if I go onto that one. Oh, that's not working. I might just have to use a brush and kind of change the opacity. Again, this isn't great, but there's a little bit of a shadow going on that makes it look like it's sitting on the table. And I can go over that a couple times. When you have opacity, you can darken it up by doing just more and more and more on top. Okay, I'm gonna pause here and I'm gonna go back in to show you how to create objects that have a clear background. Okay, so what I wanna do now is show you a kind of quick and easy way to make a bunch of your objects have a clear background. So what I'm gonna do is open up a new, from my gallery, I just again opened from the plus, I got a square, and I have a blank canvas to work on. Now what I'm gonna do is hit edit, and I'm gonna go to my layer, and whatever layer I'm working on, I'm going to import a picture. From all photos, here we go. I'm gonna grab this pickles. I love, specifically cloth and pickles are my favorite. All right, just so I can work on it, I've kind of sized it. I'm gonna hit the check mark. I do not wanna do an exact line drawing, so cancel out of that. Okay, so we're working on this layer. And if you have, this is very, very important actually, listen to this. So when you're taking pictures of your objects, you wanna try your best to put it against a very blank background, and if possible, a solid type of table or whatever you're putting it on that is kind of a different color than the bottom of your object. This is kind of dark and this is dark, so I'm gonna run into some problems there using the magic wand tool, but I'll show you how you can work around that. So this is really, really easy. If I have a bright white background and a lot of contrast, and I keep touching it and putting marks, I can be able to just basically create an outline around that. So if I go to the magic wand tool, I click it, and if I tap this background, it's gonna start grabbing all of the white, or I should say beige, kind of out of there. Now I grabbed a little bit of my label, so I don't really want it to grab that part of the label. I'm gonna pull back. And if it's too strong, you can always go into your Magic Wand settings over here. If you hit it again, you can make your strength less or more. So let me just go one less and see if that helps. No, try again. Okay. That's kind of grabbing a little bit of it. So what, again, I'm watching, because I want this to be a nice clean line. I don't want it to grab any of that. So again, hit the settings. Maybe hit gap recognition, that might help. Yeah. So now it starts to grab a little differently if you tap gap recognition. Down here, since I have all this wood grain, as you can see, it doesn't want to pick up a whole lot. So that's going to be a little bit of a problem for me. But as it stands right now, I've got a lot of this isolated. So what I want to do when I get majority, I'm going to clear this out. So I want to hit this square, and then I'm going to hit clear layer. And as you can see, it starts to eliminate your background. If you can get as close as possible to this, great. Your next step, you can just use the eraser tool, which is what I'm going to use for the rest of it. Sometimes you don't want to use the eraser tool too much, because you'll erase parts of your object and then it'll look kind of goofy. But you can do it as needed. Again, that's why it's really important to take your object somewhere to photograph it where you can use this quickly. So I'm going to go ahead again. I don't want these dashed marks. I won't be able to do anything while those are highlighted. So I'll go back here and I want to hit remove selection area. So now it's done. I'm going to go to my eraser tool. I'm going to go to full capacity or opacity, meaning the full extent of the power of it. And then you can play around with the size. So I'm going to make it bigger when I'm over here. I'm away from my pickles because I don't want to take anything away. So just kind of go up through your project, your object, and erase as much as you can. There. Okay, then I might go a little smaller and I might zoom in. So this is going to help. You really want to take your time and create nice, clean lines around your objects. That's why I always kind of start farther out and then I zoom in and I get as close as I can. The thing about digital art is, like I said, you guys, because you've been using this kind of stuff pretty often, you're probably way better than I am at this. I still am kind of old school. I like my paints and pencils and things, but it's good to know how to do all kinds of different stuff. So this is good for me as well. There we go. So I'm gonna zoom back out. Again, here's my, try to get rid of all this extra bits of crap. And all right, that's good enough. If a little bit comes off, I'm not worried about that. I mean, as long as you're not like rubbing away half of your pickles or your shoes or whatever you're using, then that's good. So this looks pretty good. I'm gonna have this, it's done. I'm gonna go back and hit this backwards button. And then I wanna save as a transparent PNG. That means my background is clear. So I'm gonna save it and then go back to my gallery. All right, so now that I have my previous little artwork that I started with drawn things done, I'm gonna go ahead back to that. I'm gonna edit. I'm going to make a new layer, I think. Whoops, picking my layers. I'm gonna choose a new layer. And then in that layer, this number 5, I'm going to go ahead and add my pickles. So it's the most recent one that I did right here. There's my pickles. And obviously, because that is the last things I'm adding, they're gonna be kind of, I just wanna go over one last tip for you guys. You can, if you are working in layers, like I was explaining, you should be able to overlap things either way. So let me show you what I mean. Whatever object is at the very top of this stream is what's gonna be in front. So right now, if I'm having the coffee cup is above the pickles, and if I hit the eyeball, That's what happens, but you just want to hit the eyeball again so it comes back. If it's above the pickles, then my coffee cup should be able to move in front of the pickles. If I go back and move my pickles, if I grab on the outside and move that above and go to transform, my pickles will be in front of my cup. So it's a really good thing to do is to remember to do all your layers separately. So you have, I don't want to select transform. So you have a lot of creative liberty into where you can place your objects, because you kind of want to make this look interesting as well. Just to be clear, you know, your objects should not be just floating in space. They should be anchored to a table as a still life should be. You don't need pictures in the background. You can have a plain wall. But what I'm looking for is, how did you arrange different things? I'd like for you to take, you know, a couple photos of your favorite objects if you have favorite, you know, tennis shoes or any awards that you've won, or you're really into nail polish, things like that, certain foods. Any of those things are fine. But you're also welcome to search the internet. Like, say, for example, your favorite place to go eat fast food is McDonald's. You could Google a McDonald's hamburger. You could pull that hamburger picture into Ibis Paint and eliminate the background on that and use that image as well. What I really just want to see is that you're working with photos, with digital art, and with erasing of backgrounds. And if this doesn't make sense, feel free to reach out. Again, at least 3 objects about yourself: background, tables. Try to put some shadows in to make it look interesting. I know you guys are pretty skilled at some of this digital art. I've seen people do, you know, some of the shading on your cups, which I didn't even bother with yet, but you get the picture. Make it fun and have a good time with it. Okay, guys, I'll see you soon.